continuing to watch. As you know, we have guests every week or every other week. And today we have Carol Dotson, who came, and I'm very grateful to have met you. Carol grew up in Mississippi as a small town girl. And the reason I thought it'd be really interesting to merge that and to talk about that is because she grew up with these extraordinary talents and gifts that people that would, I guess, would grow up in more of a religious world or a black and white world might have to navigate. They might have some challenges. And you are someone whose gifts were probably bigger than you ever knew what they even were. Or maybe you thought everybody had them, but maybe you thought, oh, this is just what everybody goes through, because you probably didn't have a point of reference. But anyway, I'll let you introduce yourself, and I'm going to be interviewing Carol today. For any of you who've ever felt that you are more isolated or you haven't found your people and you're feeling things and your intuition is telling you things, this is the show for you, because Carol, I guess, had to really tap into that at a very young age. And she's extraordinary because she is somebody who's very tuned in to spirits and to people that have crossed over. I haven't had too many people on the show that actually have that ability, that are that wired to that. But then again, you've lost a few people, and that may have even heightened it. I don't know. You'll have to tell us. And also angels. And she's had some really interesting experiences. So go ahead and say hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Madison, for having me
welcome.
on the show.
My pleasure. Really.
I hope I can bring some useful information today.
Yeah, well, I think it's unusual to meet somebody who's on a different, I guess, tapped into a different vibration. When we were talking, when the way you were talking to me, I mean, you're clairaudient. You actually hear.
I do.
And then you were saying that you actually see. And then she said something very interesting to me. I think on the other day on the phone, she was saying, sometimes I'm not sure if they actually said it or I just heard their thoughts. So you have to be careful if you're like dating someone, not to tell them that, because I think they'll get really scared and run. But you sound like you're really tapped in to really being intuitive on a lot of levels at once, where as most of us, like I know when I read cards, I was trying to think, like, what do I hear and where do I get my information? And what happens is I kind of feel it. I feel the story of it, and then I fill in the words. So it kind of comes as like I would read something or I would feel something and I would kind of get it as if I experienced it a little bit. And then I would go ahead and translate it for people. But I haven't seen any spirits, and sometimes I'm happy about that.
Well, I mean, let me start by saying we all have this ability. We all have.
That's what they all say.
We do, though. Our soul, and we come into this world with the ability, but we lose the ability because we're taught that it's not possible, and we're taught that it doesn't exist, and we're taught that this is the way things are, and this is fairy tale, and this is myth, that these things are not real, that there's no such thing as ghosts. And I was born in Mississippi and raised there until I was in mid-high school. And, you know, that's just not believed. So the spiritual world, seeing ghosts, seeing spirits, hearing them, hearing the voices, and knowing the things I've seen with my eyes, you know, they're like, you're crazy, or it's Satan, the devil, it's bad.
Right.
So when I was young, it was a matter of, wow, what do I do? Who do I talk to? Well, I saw literally my first spirit that materialized when I was 9 years old.
I was going to ask you that.
I was 9.
See, usually when people talk about seeing spirits or having this epiphany or having this opening, it's usually because they suffered a trauma, like they had an NDE, like a near-death experience or something. Did anything like that happen that
No.
opened this up, or?
No.
Uh-huh.
I think I just came in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do remember the crazy thing, and my mother and father always said, there's no way you can have these memories, because I remember from the first year of my life, I remember things, and I actually later would describe things to her, what was going on in the day I remember, and where things were in the house, and everything that was happening. And
so she
said, there's no way you can remember this.
So that was with the present day. It wasn't, you weren't remembering a past life.
No,
okay.
It was present
Your
day.
memory was just really tuned
but
in.
I was tuned into that.
Yeah.
And when I was 9, and it scared me. I thought, oh my God, I thought, what is this? It's a witch, because it was an older lady. It turned out to be my great-grandmother. My great-grandfather passed that night in his sleep, and she came to get him. And she
So it wasn't your near-death experience, it was his.
Exactly. He passed that night, and my mother at least told me, later, said, I believe that was my grandmother you saw, but that was when I was older, as I experienced that. But I saw her, and she actually came towards me, and of course she was more in a smoky form.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see her. It was an older lady, and she was standing outside my room. And when I looked at her, and she started coming into my room with her hands out, and I screamed because I was scared. I didn't know what it was. And of course, at that time, my mother says, oh, it's just a dream. It's just a dream.
Right.
I'm like, no, it wasn't a dream. She's there.
Was your grandfather in your house?
No, he wasn't.
No. But you could see her, though.
I could see her.
And she knew you could see her,
yeah,
apparently.
She knew. She saw me.
She saw you
She
see
saw
her.
me see her.
Yeah.
And I get that with spirits sometimes. When they know you can see them.
Yes, they start coming. That's why I'm happy I don't see them, because they'd all be here.
They do. They start coming. Now, and a lot of times I have seen spirits, and I have seen them in different forms.
Uh-huh.
I don't always see the spirits. Sometimes I feel them. Sometimes I talk to them. And sometimes I see them. Most of the time when I see them, I have seen them before where I have spoken to them. Mm-hmm. But most of the time when I see them, they're quiet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if it's the energy. I don't know why. But when I hear them, it's typically pretty clear.
Do you see them and hear them? Or it's mostly one or the other?
Mostly one or the other.
Maybe I mean, this is just a guess. I'm sorry to cut this story off, but I wonder if it takes so much to slow their vibration down that they can only give one or the other. It's like
it's energy.
They use up all their energy to create a form, and that's all they have.
Yes, it is energy. And as a matter of fact, because if you were to go and see a medium and you have someone that has passed, and that person wants to come through, mm-hmm. if they have just crossed over, or in the past few years, some spirits, it takes a while for them to have enough energy to materialize, or even to come in back into this realm,
right,
to have that energy to communicate.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we'll go through some of this later, but as I was speaking to some of my loved ones that had passed, I lost my husband about 15 months ago, and the first time he came in, my dad was with him, and my dad said, I am here only to give him the energy to give him the energy to bring them here to talk to you. So they do need energy. So I felt the same thing.
I just had a vision of two people being underwater and not having enough oxygen, and one person sharing their scuba mask.
Similar, yes.
Because you're out of your dimension.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that.
What did your husband tell you? I'm just curious, when your father brought him, because it seemed like it was really important that he come to you then.
There were. Well, there were a lot of personal things.
Yeah, of course.
He had cancer, so we knew that he was not going to make it.
Yeah.
And luckily, we had the opportunity to have a lot of conversations about the other side, because he knew early on in our marriage, actually before, with my abilities, and he was with me through a few prophetic dreams and visions that I had that I told him about, and then he saw that they were real, and I saw something
Dreams
that
about
happened.
him.
And about it. Well, visions about him, but dreams about other people, experiences that I've had, and I might have a dream or a vision about someone, and it's about something in particular, and then we find out the next day or 2 or 3 or 4 that it happened exactly as I saw it, which is not always a good thing.
Do you also see good things?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
I do.
Because that would be a lot to carry.
I see good things too. When I feel energies around people, I can feel if they have a good heart, a good, pure heart, and really good energy and love around them. But I've had a lot of situations, if someone has a very dark side to them, or maybe a dark spirit attached, I feel it. And not only that, I've actually shaken someone's hand, and it's like an electric bolt goes up, and then I can see. I see the things going on, and I saw a guy once that was dating a friend of mine, and that had there was some psychotic tendencies and something psychologically going on in his head. But the strange thing is when I do that, it's almost like there's some spirit I can see where I'm looking at him, and it's all of a sudden I can see something in his eyes that I know you know, and I don't know if it's him, the person, or if it's a spirit that's attached. I don't know everything.
I know, but that's a lot of information.
I've been around people where I could stand beside them, and it's a vibration that you feel, and all of a sudden I start seeing things that, whether they've done or this really dark side to them, and I just need to get away from them as fast as possible. When someone's got bad energy such as that, because I have to protect myself, I tend to collect a lot of energies, and I have to shield myself, and I've just learned how to do that in the past 2 years.
I'm amazed that being who you are, and having had these experiences for such a long time, and you've lived in LA for a while, that you haven't learned that sooner.
The journey.
Probably because I think as you got stronger, we talked about this on the phone, I think as you got stronger, your vibration got higher. I think you maybe got pulled a little bit, because that's, I think, what happens.
Well, going through spirits, and even in Mississippi, and then when I moved to Alabama in high school and went to college there and got married, first marriage, then divorced, there were a lot of spirits around me, and especially during my first marriage, a lot of spirits, and I was scared. I heard voices a lot when I was younger. They would say things out loud to me, and I would look around, and it's like, what? Sometimes I would talk to them because they would keep talking, and it's like, what? I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any training, nor did I know who to go to. And I was 34 before I found my first medium. I was 34, so it took me that long.
How did you contain all this? Growing up in Mississippi, I guess you learned early on what to talk about and what not to talk about. And then you said you were in Alabama. I don't know which is a harder place to be, Mississippi or Alabama, or if they're both the same. But I don't know how you managed to have that containment, how you were able to say, okay, like, I'm okay. This is I'm going to be fine. And,
I think growing up in that religious world.
Is that the Bible Belt?
In the Bible Belt, yes. Yeah. And luckily, my father always said, question everything. You don't have to believe the way I believe. Study, question, learn, and decide what you believe. So I would question, and I would question at the church. I would question things they would teach me. They didn't like that because I would always ask why, and this doesn't make sense to me, and why would God do this to someone, and why would they do this, and why?
Right.
So, and I would never get answers. But when I would see things and see spirits and hear the voices, and I could hear in my 20s, it sounded like there was a party of spirits in my house. It was a
Do you
lot of
think these
people
were
talking.
spirits you knew, or was it simply because you could hear them? They all kind of came around.
At that time, I was scared of them because I didn't know they were there to help me.
Okay.
I was told later they were there protecting you. They were there to protect you and your son. They weren't there to harm you. So sometimes spirits like that can be your ancestral spirits.
Mm-hmm.
It can be your spirit guides and your ancestral spirits, but typically it's spirits that are somehow connected to you, whether past lives, but a lot of those ancestral spirits are, or from what I've learned over the years.
Well, think about it. I mean, if we've had multiple lifetimes, which I
Mhm.
think they haven't yet proved, but they're coming close to it, because too many kids are born with talents, with memories that now you can, I mean, for lack of a better word, you can fact check everything online.